Everyone, it's PL Stewart here. Happy New Year. Uh, I've been on the channel doing other things, more than interview side during the New Year, but I haven't actually made like a video like this. So it's long overdue. Hope everyone is doing well. All the best to you and your family for a safe, happy, prosperous, healthy, amazing 2026 full of wonderful reads. And I'm here today to help your TBR. Well, not really. Some might say I'm here to hurt your TBR, but I'm saying I'm sticking with it that I'm here to help. So, and the purpose of this video is I'm going to give you 40 authors that I believe you should read by the year 2040. Well, why did I pick the year 2040? Well, hey, don't we all struggle with TBRs? We all struggle with TBRs, don't we? We say we want to read this by this time. We want to read this by this time. We want to get this done. We always seem to not get there. Well, guess what? I'm giving you 14 years to get to these 40 authors. And you know what? I bet a lot of you read a good chunk of them already. So it's like cheating, man. Right? So, 40 authors, even if you read none of them, help me out, math people. That's math people. I'm not a math person. Like 2.85 or something like that authors a year. If you were, I could be wrong, but that's the point. Is it's not that many authors if you look at it that way, right? So just depends how you look at it. So, anyways, without further ado, these are 40 authors. They're all traditionally published authors. I'm going to do a separate video on indie authors just to get more exposure for books. That's why I'm splitting up this way. So here are 40 authors that I really, really enjoy their work. They are absolutely phenomenal. Many of them are, of course, very extremely, extremely well known. Some of them may be lesser known to you, though. It just depends, right? I think I have a little variety here. I'd say the vast preponderance are better known. Excuse me. However, hey, that's all subjective because some people might have never heard of some of these authors. And for some people, it's the author's already their favorites, one of their favorites. So, all right. So, without further ado, I'm going to start with the 40 traditionally published science fiction fantasy authors I think you need to read by 2040. And if you read these authors, I think you're really going to feel like you're going to feel well read in the science fiction and fantasy milieu for traditionally published authors, I think, because of the diversity, the spectrum of authors that we're talking about. Hopefully, but again, my subjective opinion, right? But anyways, check them out. You might find something that intrigues you. So these authors are in no order. It's not alphabetical. It's not my favorite author. It's not by any, it's just random. I just pulled books off my shelves and okay, here's 40 authors, right? That I really think that should be read. So let's get started. Okay, how do we start on the dark side? The darkness that comes before. R. Scott Bakker, book one of The Prince of Nothing. This is, would you read this? Get ready for some nihilism, right? Get ready for some, perhaps, a lack of hope, but also get ready for some beautiful, brilliant prose, some characters that are so flawed, but you can't look away from them. Just so compelling. Get ready to be challenged about your thoughts regarding things like free will, concepts like that. This is amazing stuff. It's a travesty. I've only read the first book. I'm pretty confident, and I keep saying this, probably going to end up being one of my all-time favorite series when I actually get it done. But R. Scott Bakker, read that author. Great author. Okay. Another fabulous author, very, very well known, very highly decorated with Nebula, Locus, etc., the big fantasy awards, a poet, an academic. P. Djèlí Clark, wonderful person as well. I've had the opportunity to interview him with my amazing partner Taylor for Made Between the Pages on Page Chewing. Very well known for brilliant novellas and shorter fiction. Master Jin, murder mystery with genies, like it's alternate history, alternate Egypt. This is great stuff, right? Check out that Page Chewing on my channel. It's that Taylor and I did with with Peter Joseph Clark. He's such a warm, wonderful human being and so brilliant. Again, extremely highly decorated author in the field and brilliant. So check out his stuff. Here's something that a lot of my friends in YouTube are really onto now. I've only read the first book. I found it great. It, especially as a really fun, just one of my friends from BookTube, awesome Jake from Nerd Level Rising, he described it so aptly. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? Gothic, like vampires, like this. We're talking with Jay Kristoff, Empire of the Vampire. This is obviously a very popular book. It is somewhat controversial, I know, like in some quarters, it's not as well received, but it's extremely well known and extremely popular. And I had a blast with this. I really want to get back to the series. I really had a blast with it. It's dark, it's gory, I really think there's a lot here for a really fun time and a really dark, compelling world that you wouldn't want to live in. So with a really snarky, kind of a-hole-ish main character that is also fascinating. That's my type of character. Type of characters that I like to write and read about. So, Empire of the Vampire, that's a book that really needs no introduction, and an author that needs no introduction. So read Jay Kristoff. A series I have to get back to. A very, 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 very good author. I started the first book. Have to get back to the series. I'm gonna continue this year. Amazing person. I've interacted with her. She's brilliant. Different variation of the spelling of my pen name and Stewart. So that's Andrea Stewart and the Bone Shard Daughter. Pretty popular book. Andrea's a very popular writer. Excellent. This is, you got an endorsement from Sarah J. Maas on the front. Fantastic Asian-inspired fantasy. Really got some really creepy elements, but in a good way. You have found family. You have great animal companions. This is really good stuff and a fairly well-known book and series and author. So this author definitely, Andrew G. Stewart, worth checking out. Maybe a bit more obscure for a lot of you. I got onto this book by my favorite author, Janie Wirtz. She put me on it, and Blaze and Corner from Other Rare Books, another dear friend of mine. Dark. I talk about R. Scott Bakker. This is dark, but beautiful, poignant. Just the prose is so clipped and tight, but it just every single word is used to the advantage of the reader. It's just a beautifully written book, but it is dark, and some of the actions of the characters, it's just a very somewhat depraved society in a way. But it's one of the first book in the series. Okay, and this is the Stone Dancing Chameleon, and this is Richard Pinto, The Masters. It is wow. I can't say enough about it. Another series. I read the first book. How have I not get back to this? But this looks like it could be an all-time favorite as well. I think it's a 10 or 11 book series, and I really need to get back to this. Ricardo Pinto. Sorry, I think I said Richard. It's Ricardo Pinto, and it is the Stone Dancing Chameleon. That is a series, and the book is called The Masters. Has a feel of almost you're in a world that is based on ancient South America. It's great stuff. All right. My nerd is definitely showing, here. Obviously, this book needs no introduction. One of, if not the patriarch of, considered the patriarch of modern fantasy. I'm that dude that this is actually one of my favorite books in all the books that he's written, even more than the Lord of the Rings, and that is J.R.R. Tolkien, The Silmarillion. Yes, I know, but for some people this is like reading a textbook. But for me, it's brilliance with the lore and the backstory and the history of the world. I absolutely love it. So J.R.R. Tolkien, again, Needs no introduction. Patriarch of modern fantasy. If you read J.R.R. Tolkien, you're gonna feel like, okay, you tick that box. But it's not just about that. Obviously, his writing is stupendous, and some people say it hasn't aged as well. But this, for a lot of people, the nostalgia alone, it's just J.R.R. Tolkien is an author that has definitely stood the test of time, and that how many authors have based their works that they consider this a foundational author. So Tolkien, for me, the Silmarillion, that's a book that I really adore. So J.R.R. Tolkien. All right. Stephen Aryan, fabulous person. I had the privilege of meeting him at I believe it's Worldcon in Glasgow. Brilliant author, really sharp wit. He had a YouTube channel. I'm not sure if it's still running, but that channel he gave really practical and spot on author advice for authors of all stripes. This is my favorite book from him. It's a duology. It's a duology that he's written. The Coward, the first one. Let me just give you a quick line because the tagline is it's amazing, and it just gives you a little hint. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but everyone puts their faith in Kel, the legend, but he's just a coward who has no intention of risking his life for anyone. The whole premise in this is fabulous. Great author, a great person, Stephen Aryan. Read his stuff. He is an author that you want to check out. Really accessible prose, witty, sharp. You breeze through his books, and next thing you know, 3, 4, 5 hours have passed, and you're done. And it was a great, fun read. So check out Stephen Aryan. Okay. Another foundational book, another foundational author. Grim dark is a subgenre within fantasy that has its share of fans. I think if you want the foundational stuff, check out writers like Glenn Cook and Black Company. This is kind of the part of that inception for me in the case of grimdark. I feel it's absolutely again one of those foundational reads that if you're a grimdark fan, you're gonna love this. Where the heroes are not heroes, they're human, right? And that's the beauty of books like this. It's not about the handsome prince or the great legendary war. It's about real people. I see a comment here. Hey, thanks for checking out Callan Kobo 5991. Agree. It's his best. I think you were talking about Stephen Aryan, I believe. And yeah, I love that. If that's what you're talking about, please correct me if I'm wrong, if that wasn't. But thanks for coming out and checking out the spontaneous video about the 40 Chad authors, science fiction fantasy authors you need to read by 2040. So thank you so much for stopping by and commenting. So that was Glenn Cook. The master of prose, a writer that is one of the most talented science fiction and fantasy writers that I can think of. Actually just did, I'm doing part of an ongoing series that Philip Chase and Evan, the Nerd Writer, check out. They're doing a big read of everything that this author has written. And Callan Kobo, I don't know what says the Silmarillion. Yes. I found a Silmarillion fan. See, we can hang, my friend, because obviously I think we're probably the minority. But and wait till I get to another very, very well-known author, and the book that I picked from them is similar in some ways. That a lot of people probably wouldn't pick it as their favorite amongst their work, but yes, the Silmarillion I think is absolutely wonderful. Had a big influence on me as a writer. So thanks for posting that. So this author, Guy Gavriel Kay. This is All the Seas of the World. This is one of his more recent works. Just the prose. You read Guy Gavriel Kay to get lost in the lushness and beauty, and his prose is just. There's a few authors that their prose is transportive. It is just astounding, and this is one of them. So if you like beautiful prose, if you like really compelling drama, if you like a very mature writer who gives you every aspect of life that's tied into the world that you'll see, whether it's the food or romance, or it's just, yeah, absolutely stunning stuff. And again, one of the most talented writers, I think, of the last 30 to 40 years. So, Guy Gavriel, okay, read his stuff. All right. Another writer who needs no introduction. Unfortunately, there is, and again, I don't want to belabor this, but this is the obvious point that I think you need to know going into reading some of these writers, is that, they have these extremely popular series where they're not finished. But that shouldn't detract from the fact that the series are brilliant. The writers are incredible. And while you may or may not have a sense of frustration that you absolutely love book 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 or 6, and then you're still waiting. You've been waiting for years for that next book. I still think it's worth the journey to get started and just see, right? In this case, it's Patrick Rothfuss, it's Name of the Wind. Again, I'm not going to belabor why the series isn't done. That's up to the author. But again, I think this book is, again, for the pros, for reading the story of an unreliable narrator that takes you on a journey that you can just get lost in. I think, again, this book needs no introduction. Patrick Rothfuss needs no introduction. But again, you talk about prose. I am enamored of the way he writes. And again, I think it's worth the journey, irrespective of whether this series is ever finished. So, Patrick Rothfuss. One of my favorite authors of all time, in the top 2, actually. One, someone who I consider a friend, someone who is one of the most diverse writers who can write. He writes on a level in science fiction, fantasy, historical fiction that, across the board here in several different subgenres that most people would dream to be able to write as well in one of those subgenres. We're talking about none other than Christian / Miles Cameron. This is Against All Gods, and gorgeous cover. Christian Cameron is someone who really influenced my writing. Actually, reading his Treasure Sun cycle, that made me want to write big, epic fantasy. Extremely known for his battle scenes. He's a reenactor. He travels all over the world, practicing with, reenacting these famous ancient battles. He's a weapons master. Watch his videos on writing, fighting, to give you some authenticity and gravitas for your fantasy book, if that's what you're doing. If you're a writer, this is someone you need to follow, need to get to know, need to read. And again, so multifaceted, so talented, can write in any subgenre and write so well. This is someone who you need to read. Miles / Christian Cameron. Okay. Oh yeah, just for fun, right? Orcs, Hogs, Sons of Anarchy style, politics and action, Jonathan French, bastards. This series, The Lot-Land, it's sweary, it's stabby, it's just a blast, but it's just surprisingly deep too. Got a lot of deep themes, and really, really, just a great, fun read. Snarky. It's got a lot of darkness in there, but it's just a hell of a ride. Jonathan French, very underrated author, I think. I believe the last book in the series won the Kirkus Star. He's got some serious writing chops. But yeah, just a great series, fun, and orcs, the scary orcs, really, really tough works, and yeah, it's just a great series. So check out Lot-Land, check out Jonathan French as an author. Alrighty, so where are we going now? Okay, that's another. So similar to Patrick Rothfuss, an author who needs no introduction. Unfortunately, because of the series not being finished yet, I know some people do take a bit of exception with that. However, Again, absolutely brilliant. I need to continue on this series. I've only read the first book, but a book that extremely well-known book, extremely well-known author, Liza Lockamore, Scott Lynch. This, is again the prose, Found Family, Den of Thieves, cast of role characters, the things that really denote this book. They have like some of the characteristics of the book are things that a lot of people love to read in their fantasy, right? So, dark, witty, I think it's something that a lot of people would like. And it, of course, is an extremely popular book. And, I say, hey, man, read as far as you can in the series, and hopefully one day it's finished. But if not, enjoy the ride. Scott Lynch, another fabulous and very well-known author. Another foundational author, your author's favorite author in a lot of cases. I had the privilege of interviewing him as well with Taylor on Page Chewing. Check out that interview on my channel. It's in the Page Chewing playlist subfolder. Again, what do you say about Tad Williams? This is the Dragonbone Chair. He's such a phenomenal person. I could talk to him for hours. He's amazing. Again, typically has influenced so many of the biggest authors of the day. Chunky, brilliant, deep, character-driven, poignant fantasy. With all the tropes done right and inverted in many cases, that you really you want to read. But prepare for the chunk. I know he's got no smaller books, but most of the books I've read from him are they're like this. So get ready for that. But if you're a fantasy reader that doesn't mind those really in-depth character-driven books with beautiful description and awesome, beautiful prose, Tad Williams, foundational. Again, in many cases, your favorite author's favorite author. He was a huge influence on them. Tad Williams. Okay, one of my all-time favorites. I talk about Christian Cameron and his ability to write fight scenes. Here's another author that their mastery of writing ancient combat scenes is in that upper echelon. Beautiful prose. You'll always find a word that will send you running to the dictionary with this author, but it's not purple at all. It's very accessible at the same time. It's just, the blend is just fabulous. Philip Chase and myself, along with the wonderful William Gwynn, I think for the last book in the series, we did a deep dive into this author's Warlord Chronicles. He is just, again, one of my absolute favorites. Just someone you want to read everything that he writes. Bernard Cornwell. This is the last book in the fabled Saxon story. Some of the people know it as the Last Kingdom series because of the TV show. But this is just brilliant historical fiction of Britain in a time where it was being torn apart by war as the nation was being created. But just absolutely fabulous, great stuff, really stirring. Again, the battle scenes, it's just there's so much to like here, but the battle scenes, they're next level. So Bernard Cornwell, amazing historical fiction and fantasy author. All right. Again, an author who needs no introduction. I talked about the Silmarillion. I picked this book by them because, of course, a lot of people would not pick this as perhaps their favorite book by this author. But hey, guess what? You like House of the Dragon? Well, the source material is right here. Fire and Blood. And that is George R. Martin, of course. What can we say about A Song of Ice and Fire? It is not finished. We all know that. But let's put it this way. The minute that the next book comes out in the series, if it ever came out, it would be the #1 best-selling book of the last 30, 40 years. I mean, again, no introduction. We all know about the TV show. Some of us didn't like the way it ended. I totally respect that. But George R. Martin is an iconic author and one of the most famous fantasy authors probably in the world. Someone that you might want to read. And Fire and Blood, again, the source material for the amazing show House of the Dragon, which I love. So check out George R. R. Martin. Read him by 2040, and you won't be disappointed. Check out all the TV shows as well going on. I think some of them have a lot to offer. Just beware of Game of Thrones near the last couple seasons, but so far, House of Dragons has been fabulous, and Night of the Secret Seven Kingdoms is coming very soon to TV. George R. R. Martin. All right. Where are we going now? One of the funniest, warmest, most amazing people that I've had the pleasure of interacting with, a brilliant author. His YouTube channel is hilarious. He's just such an incredible human being and an inspiration to us all with what he's been through with various issues, medical issues recently. But he's a brilliant author, and his series is under the radar, but don't sleep on it. Don't sleep. I'm praying I get to read more from him one day. And The Five Warrior Angels and The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. His YouTube channel, his YouTube channel should be on your list, folks that love YouTube. You should be watching him. Just amazing. Again, this is brilliant, very dark, like grim dark fantasy, but astounding. They're chonkers, but this is a series this is one of my top science fiction fantasy series of all time. And the Five Warrior Angels, definitely dark, gritty, gory, but amazing character-driven fantasy by an exceptional author and a wonderful person. But also check out his YouTube channel. If you don't have that on your YouTube list, then you need to add it. So Brian Lee Durfee, awesome fella and awesome author. All right, let's go to another author who absolutely needs no introduction. And while not one of my favorite authors at all, and if that's a hot take, that's fine. You cannot deny his influence on all things fantasy. You cannot deny that he's one of the best storytellers, likely, of the last several decades, if not more, of fantasy. He has his reach on the genre is long. He casts a long shadow. That's Brandon Sanderson, and this is Way of Kings. My issues, of course, with Brandon Sanderson only predominantly come down to the prose. I can nitpick on other things, but this is one of the most famous fantasy authors ever. So, I mean, I feel if you read his books, there's gonna be something to like. It is very accessible, and I think for a lot of modern readers, that's key. And of course, there is the famous the Sanderlands that people talk about. That because of the way he crafts these huge chonkers, that there's that rush at the end of the action and the climax that it's like an adrenaline rush. That for a lot of people, this is the perfect fantasy author. So he doesn't have to be my favorite, but he very, very, very likely to be yours, especially if you like modern fantasy. So Brandon Sanderson, a good investment to read, especially if you think that sounds like your bag, the way I described it. All right. Again, a pretty popular fantasy author that is best known perhaps for his humor and his very, very gritty, grim characters. The Lord of Grimdark himself, Joe Abercrombie. The Blade itself, I've read a lot by this author. His humor, I think, is really what carries his books. His characters are detestable, but just funny, and a lot of them have real depth. Sandy McLaughlin is still one of my favorite characters in fantasy ever. An assassin, a torturer. This is grimdark at its grimdarkest, and it's just a blast. People say there's no plot to some of his books. I honestly, you're not going to care. The battle scenes, the humor, the snark, he's just so good at what he does, and he does it in a way that is just unique to him. So, Joe Abercrombie, Lord Grimdark, all hail. You're going to want to read him if you're interested, especially in grimdark fantasy. Another brilliant author I've had the pleasure of interviewing on Page Chewing. Check out that interview with my partner, Taylor from In Between the Pages. It is in the Page Chewing playlist. Really topical. The themes very, very spot on themes that will make you think and that will bring out certain emotions. Just a fabulous writer, also for the representation for queer characters. It's a great book. Great duology. I have to read the second one. Again, travesty, I haven't. She is an amazing person. She's so dynamic, so smart. She's got, she's one of those really well-rounded people. She's got it all, she's got the really athletic, the guns of steel, and then she's got the, the brilliant mind and the writer at C.L. Clark. And this is The Unbroken, a fabulous book. Oh, look at that cover, eh? Yeah, it's amazing. So, definitely an author you want to check out. Definitely, and definitely an author that's rising, and more people need to read her work. But yeah, C.L. Clark is fabulous. So let's throw in at this juncture, because I mean, a lot of these authors are well known still, and again, it just depends on what you like to read and how widely you read. But this is an author I'd read recently that, wow, this was a trip. This book is not for the faint of heart, and this author is not for the faint of heart, but it is, I think, very much worth reading. It is this fantastic dreamscape of an African-inspired fantasy world that is just brutal, with really scary monsters and really scary people in terms of their morals, and a character that's completely unreliable. It is. I can't describe this book well, but I'm just going to say it's worth reading, but it's not for the faint of heart. So just be warned. And that is Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. Read the reviews on this book and decide if it's not for you. I do want to read the second book, I believe. I think there's 3 in the series. I'm not sure. But, just a brilliant author. If you watch YouTube and you watch some of his interviews, he's a genius. But yes, this book it's not for the very heart. You may feel thrown in the deep end and lost and confused, but it is still beautiful, dark, gritty, but not for the faint of heart. There's some really, I don't want to say horrific, but I'm not trying to turn you off the book, but just be warned if you're going to read this. It's it's a trip. So Marlon James, an author you should read by 2040. Okay, so wow, we're finally getting the stocks down, eh? So if you want pulse-pounding fight scenes, if you want a complete adrenaline rush, like basically from start to finish, if you're an action-oriented reader, you want to read those fights, you want to read those battles, you want, but still not skipping on the world building and the deep themes, and the character is relentless, the action is relentless. When we fight, the world burns. Evan Winter, Rage of Dragons. This book is just, it does not take a breath, right? And this was an indie darling that was picked up traditionally and has become one of the most well-known science fiction fantasy books of all time. It's on Time Magazine's top 100 for that, in that category. I've also had the privilege of interviewing this author. Evan Winter is just a wonderful, warm, extremely smart human being that you just want to root for. So check out that interview with him. Taylor and I sat down with him on Patreon. Hope to do it again in the future. But yeah, if you want the action, this is your book, right? From gladiator style battles to those big epic confrontations, and this character's will to fight is like few you're going to read. Tale, the main character. Just like I said, when we fight, the world burns. Evan Winter. Okay, It's sort of something very different. Deep character-driven fantasy, beautiful, beautiful prose, a phenomenal, exceptionally brilliant writer and academic. Check out her. She specializes in medieval fashion. She's got a website devoted to that. Again, phenomenal author. Someone have had the privilege of meeting in person. She's just so sweet, warm, wonderful, just amazing. And again, her I love Arthurian fantasy. She writes it exceptionally well. This again, a series I need to get back to because I believe it's complete now. I have to read more, but that's Natania Baron and Queen of None. Look at that beautiful cover. So you want Arthurian legend about characters that don't get as much press generally in the mythology. This is, Natania Baron knows how to give these characters their due. So read Natania Baron, follow her on social media. What she knows about medieval fashion, she is an expert in the field. And again, if you're looking for some authenticity to your writing and you want to know what that element, this is a great person to follow. So, Natania Baron. Okay. One of the most well-known another just exceedingly brilliant author. Actually, I haven't read this one yet. I've read his magnum opus. I've read Malazan Book of the Fallen, and it is definitely one of my top series of all time. Hey, look who it is. It's one of my favorite people in this space. It is Jared, the Fantasy Thinker. Hey, buddy. How's it going? Thanks for coming out. One of my little spontaneous videos. Always great to see you. Jared is amazing. Check out his channel. He's brilliant, insightful. He's someone who you need to put on that YouTube list of people that you follow and that you watch regularly when you have time. So I'm honored to know him. Always a good day when I see him pop on. Thanks so much, Jared, for coming by. Oh, and another brilliant booktuber, an OU friend, Britton. What's up? How's it going, man? Someone can check out Britton's channel as well. It's got great content. And an Oklahoma Sooners fan. I mean, come on, man. How can you go wrong? So hope you're doing well, my friend. Unfortunately, Sooners were long done. They kind of, they didn't do as well as they could have. I think a bit of squandered opportunity, but it's okay. There's always next year, right? They got some pieces, but yeah, check out Britton's channel. He has some great guests as well when he does interviews, and yeah, very, very interesting content. So check him out. So back to this author, it's Steven Erikson, best known for Malazan Book of the Fallen. This one I haven't read yet. The God is Not Willing, but it's definitely on my radar. Go Sooners, go Boomer Sooners, buddy. Definitely on my radar, and I plan to get to this sometime this year. So I do want to read everything that. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for popping in. That's really cool of you. Thanks. He's gonna get streaming. I'll check out what you're putting on later on. So, but I mean, Steven Erikson needs no introduction. Brilliant author, writes the darkness and the light, and gives you that. Though hits you in the feels, right? Hits you in the feels. You cannot read Malazan and come out being unchanged, in my opinion. And yes, Jared said, yeah, this is so good. Oh wow, I'm really stoked that. Yeah, I got to get to this. So, Steven Erikson, another writer you should read by a traditionally published author, science fiction fantasy author, you should read by 2040, in my opinion. Okay. Wow, the stack's really vanishing here. So, another brilliant New York Times bestselling author who, again, all these authors, you may have read them, you probably have at least heard of them. She's perhaps best known for writing amazing fiction based on Greek and Roman mythology. Song of Achilles, probably her best known, Circe. But yeah, this is Song of Achilles. This is Madeline Miller, another brilliant academic, another amazing book. Again, very poignant, very, very character driven, just fabulous stuff, right? There's a reason why she has all the accolades that she does. I really do enjoy reading Madeline Miller. I need to read more of her. I don't think she has that many novels out, So I've read Cersei and Song of Achilles. I haven't read anything else. I'm not even sure what else she's got, but I really have to get back to reading her. But yeah, fabulous book, brilliant author. If you enjoy the classics as I do, this is an author you really need to check out. So Madeline Miller. Okay, well, I talked about Name of the Wind, and I talked about that book for several reasons. So this book, someone argues inspired by the stories that inspired Name of the Wind. Some would say that this was inspired, that Name of the Wind inspired this author. I love that he's covering more the eastern, in the eastern part of the world, the tales there, like the Silk Road, etc. But yeah, it feels like you're reading something very similar to Name of the Wind. But I would argue that it is still fresh and inventive and unique, and I do really enjoy it. And I have to get back to this series, and that is R. Verde is the author, first book in the series. But yeah, R. Verde is an author and he's just he is so good. Wow, his brain power, man. He's got that big brain energy going on as well. I've had the privilege of speaking to him on Page Chewing with Taylor again. Check out that interview. Just an exceptional person and a brilliant author. If you like Name of the Wind, let's keep it simple. You're going to like this book, right? I guess the difference will be, frankly, whether you feel that it is too close to Name of the Wind, that you don't feel it, that you feel it's too derivative, or whether you do feel that fresh, inventive, thing when you read it. So, I mean, I say this is worth checking out. Check out R. Verde. And we have Craig Yoda. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Craig. And I appreciate that. Says thanks for doing this video. Have time to jump up. We'll watch full and catch up. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for coming out. It's always good to see people in the chat that check out my spontaneous live things. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Craig. And I hope you enjoy your day. Alrighty, we're getting there. Books are flying all over the place. Brilliant, dark, prose to die for, chef's kiss, fever dreamish. This author makes you want to slow down and read all of her sentences. Someone who, again, very dark, very gritty. She's going to bring the pain, and you're going to love every minute of it. This is Anna Smith Spark, Tower of Living and Dying. This author it feels surreal when you read her books, but in the best of ways. And, again, definitely I think is going to wind up in my top 10 authors of all time when I read more of her work. It's just so good. And she is the queen of grimdark. So that moniker speaks for itself. You don't get a bracket like that unless you bring the darkness and the pain, and she does. But again, it's also really sweet. So read Anna Smith Spark. All right. Another author who needs a zero introduction, perhaps one of the most highly decorated authors in the last 30 years. I don't know how many Nebulas and Locus she's won. I think that, again, to feel well read, I think you put her on your TBR and you check it out. If she's not for you, she's not for you. But I think an author worth reading. She comes with the credentials that are seldom matched. And that is N.K. Jemisin. This is 100,000 Kingdoms. Again, one of the most decorated fantasy authors of our generation, certainly. And, really compelling themes. I believe that's what she's best known for. Brilliant world building. Again, an author that everybody's heard of. So, but perhaps you haven't read her. So I would check out N.K. Jemisin. All right. Oh, we have some real amazing authors here left. Okay. So this is an author that I got into this year because of my wife. It isn't something I typically would have read, but I wound up loving it as a palate cleanser, if nothing else, compared to what I read, which is usually really, really chunky, big, epic, tend to be dark. fantasies, and that's what I tend to write and enjoy. But this was just a beautiful, and I'm not an audiobook person. I listen to a lot of these on audiobook thanks to my wife, and I really had a good time. The humor is fabulous. It's very compelling. The themes, are very, very, very heart wrenching and very topical. The way the world is going today, definitely read it for the queer rep if that's what you're looking for. And this is T.J. Klune, The House in the Cerulean Sea. Very, very well known author, very, very well known series. And I just found it to be, as much as it was deep, the humor here, I think, was just those silly jokes that you just laugh out loud. I think I just had a blast with this, and but yeah, and I have there's a lot, and there's some tear jerking, real tear jerking moment too. So it was a great palate cleanser for me. It was a light, fun, light in some ways, but just a really great read. And check out T.J. Klune. Okay, another author who needs no introduction. He is the mastermind behind the famous self-published fantasy blog off, which features indie writers in a writing competition. He is quite a well-known, worldwide recognized fantasy author. I've read about 2 or 3 series from him. He is one of my favorite authors of all time, and he's just an amazing individual. I have the privilege again of meeting him in person at the Glasgow Worldcon. They always, you always talk about don't meet your heroes, but this is someone who I'm glad I met, because he's such an awesome fella and a brilliant writer and a rocket scientist. Like, how many rocket scientists, a real rocket scientist, how many of those do you meet by trade? And that's Mark Lawrence. And this is Priscilla Dorrance. And we all know that I like detestable, kind of morally ambiguous, like really like, nah, this guy's an outright, Jorg is an outright. Some people might say that he's one of the worst characters you're going to read. I mean, he does some pretty representable things, but there is that little tiny thread. And I think the humor, Mark Lawrence's humor, again, like Joe Abercrombie, he's got that really wry sense of that British humor that, I think is the one thing that probably redeems his character, because he's pretty horrible. And for someone so young, but you understand why, some of the whys that he's like that, right? But he carves a bloody path. There's no doubt about that. But this series is really compelling. Mark Lawrence is a brilliant author, someone definitely worth reading. Every single series he writes seems to just get he just seems to get better and better, and everybody raves about his stuff. And there's good reason, and that's why he's one of my influences and one of my favorite authors. So Mark Lawrence. An under the radar gem that a lot of people haven't perhaps heard of, but I love this series. The battle scenes are just astounding. The really well drawn characters. The world building it's strong. I think some people might find it a bit more simplistic, but I'm telling you, man, this is an underrated book. The author has got a trilogy out. I don't know if he's written anything else. He took some time off writing this, I believe, to become a doctor. But yeah, this series, when it first came out, it was pretty hyped, right? And Leo Carew, he's definitely got some writing chops. I think read this for the battle scenes alone. I think they're absolutely astounding. Like big scale battle scenes. He handles large scale combat really, really well. So and some really well drawn, very morally gray characters, and some heartbreak. Like the battle scenes are certainly not without casualties, and he does enough for the characters to make you really care that it's gonna hit you when some of your faves don't make it. So check out Leo Carew. Again, an under the radar, I think, and maybe perhaps not a lot of people are on this series, but this trilogy, Under the Northern Sky, is I think it's really strong. All right. The brilliant Gareth Powell, who writes predominantly science fiction. This is a novella he wrote with another brilliant author, Peter F. Hamilton. Gareth Powell is just, I need to read his main stuff. This is Light Chaser. It was a fun read, short, but when you read books that are so impactful with prose, especially in such a short, compact, space. You can just tell the craft, right? And Gareth L. Powell is just a really great guy. Another person I've had the honor of meeting in Worldcon in Glasgow. Phenomenal author. Check him out. Writes great sci-fi. I need to read more from him. Gareth Powell is definitely an author you want to have on your TBR and read something by him by 2040. Really popular series, really popular author. I think this series is it just continues to seem to gain more traction. I think that, and again, someone I've had the privilege of interviewing with Taylor on Page Chewing, another very well-known author. Urban fantasy is not normally my thing, but this is one of my favorite series. And I'm not an urban fantasy, that it's not really my preferred subgenre, but yeah, Greenbolt Saga, yeah, I'm feeling that. Fonda Lee, amazing person, another brilliant writer, and awesome, warm, wonderful person as well. Check out that interview with Taylor and I believe Steve Talks Books on Page Chewing. It is urban fantasy with moonblades and guns, and it's the family drama. It's the Godfather style politics of these gangs that they believe in their own sense of justice, their own morality, and the cost on the family in trying to basically control the territories, control the resources, and the conflict between these rival, essentially gangs. It's really compelling stuff. So check out Greenbolt Saga. Check out Fonda Lee. She's a brilliant author. All right. We are really getting down there. I think we have, we got less than 10 books left. So I totally love Arthurian Legend. This is perhaps an under radar one, but one I really, really enjoyed. Really interesting take on Arthurian Legend. And this is Sing Pike, The Lost Queen. If you like Arthurian stuff, if you like more of the slow burn and the romance and the character-driven stuff, I think Sing Pike's got a lot to offer. I love Arthurian Legend, so I'll pick up if a book's got that element of that mythology. I'm probably gonna at least take a look at it at some point. And which is because it's one of my favorites. So yeah, Sing Pike, Lost Queen, maybe not as well known as some of the other books here, but again, I really enjoyed this series, so maybe an under radar one that you might want to give a try. A new up-and-coming, fresh, and exciting author who I've also had the pleasure of interviewing on Six Elementals and meeting in person at Glasgow Worldcon. You may have heard of Songs of Legend Lost and M.H. Aindy. Marvelous person, brilliant author. Fantasy with you can see a little bit of that sci-fi in there. Really great characters. A lot of the found family stuff and the family dynamics. But yeah, just a fabulous book and a really exciting new author. And look at that cover, right? Basically the premise, bad things happen when you summon your dead ancestors to fight. So, I think that's hopefully a good enough hook to get you to want to check out this book, because it is fabulous. And this author is really up and coming. You're going to want to keep your eye on M.H. Aindy and put it on your TBR and read her before 2040. We're down to just 5, and these are some doozies here. And my favorite author is buried in here. And again, this wasn't in any order at all. It just happened that she is near the end. But I'm going to get to her. I think I'm going to get to her next. So those of you who know me know that Janny Wurts is my favorite author. I mean, no bones about it. I'm also on to consider her friend. She is wonderful. An even more wonderful human being than, if you can believe it, than how talented she is at basically everything. Whether it's equestrian, bagpipes, search and rescue, painting. She's a world-class artist and a world-class writer. Probably one of the most underrated science fiction and fantasy writers of the era. Her magnum opus, of course, was Light and Shadow, is my favorite fantasy series of all time. And Janny Wurts No one writes like her. Her prose is on the utmost level for me, at the very top. Um, First book in her magnum opus was Light Shadow Curse of the Mistwraith. Um, this book is finally, this author is finally, and this book in this series, finally starting to get a bit of the recognition it deserves. Jenny belongs up there, as I always say. I know you're probably tired of hearing me saying this, but I'm going to keep saying it. Deserves to be read. If you're going to read the Stephen Harrison, the George R. Martin, the Robin Hobson, she is in that caliber of the elite in terms of fantasy authors in the last 30, 40 years that are living. So read her, and you will probably fall in love and have a hard time reading anything else, especially when you get used to that prose and it just hooks you. The way she uses adjectives, you're going to feel transported. So read Jenny Wirtz for the fact that, if nothing else, if you think that we have the same reading taste, she's my favorite author. So there you go. All right, we're down to another perhaps under the radar one, but I'm a big classical fan, a big Shakespeare fan. This is one of my favorite retellings of Shakespeare. It's got a queer tilt, and the prose is just, again, if you want to call me a prose snob, whatever you like to call me, I'm a sucker for what I consider to be brilliant prose. This definitely has it. New York Times bestselling author, not for this series, but I believe for her comic stuff. I've had the privilege of interviewing her on Patreon with Taylor, the wonderful Tessa Gratton. And this is Lady Hotspur, based, of course, on Shakespeare and Prince Hal, Henry V, and their court. This is just incredible. Again, I don't want to say too much, but if you like Shakespeare and you like prose that is inspired by the Bard, and you like queer normative world and brilliant characters, deep character analysis, deep world building and descriptions, this is your series. Tessa Gratton, and this is your author. Tessa Gratton, wonderful author and a great person. All right, 3 more left. Another book and author needs no introduction. Silk Punk, flying airships, they're chonkers, and they are, the lens is really wide with these books. The characters are, perhaps you don't get as much depth in some of the books, or some of the characters. It seems like a very treetop book. It's like treetop story view. It's like reading history, but it is so well done. And it's just wow. It is just so well done, and he's such a brilliant writer. And but this series is quite popular now, but I think it's one of the series that's either for you or not for you. Dandelion Dynasty, but the author is Ken Louis, and he is a genius. We've also had the pleasure and privilege of interviewing him on Patreon. Check out that interview. Ken Louis, Grace King, the first book in Dandelion Dynasty. I love it. I know it's not for everybody. But I think there's a lot there. Again, it has that, in some ways it might feel detached sometimes because the lens is zoomed so far out and you have this huge cast of characters. But again, I think there's a lot to love here. Sometimes it may feel like he's going off in the weeds, but again, I think it's still really, really entertaining and really, really great author. Ken Louis. Well, 2 more left. 40 authors, traditionally published science fiction and fantasy authors to read by 2040. We're almost at the end here. So the second last one, another extremely well-known fantasy author who needs no introduction. One of my favorite authors, one of the most heralded authors in the last, certainly 20, 30 years. His new series is really, really, I think, grabbed people by the throat. And his wonderful sons, the brothers Gwyn, are amazing booktubers, and they're authors themselves. They're going to follow in Papa's footsteps. I can't wait to see what they do as authors. Of course, their father is John Gwyn, and this is Hunger of the Gods. I mean, what do you say about John Gwyn? He's a wonderful person. Like Christian Cameron, he's also a reenactor. And like Christian Cameron, he is known for the authenticity of his battle scenes. That is definitely one of his strengths and one of the things he's most well known for. And he's one of the best ancient combat writers, I think, out there in fantasy. John Gwynne also writes characters at a level where you live and die on their every, heartache and battle wound. And like, it's just like he makes you care deeply about the characters he writes. He really writes compelling characters that you're gonna fall in love with, and when they don't make it or something happens to them, it's just gonna break your heart. That is definitely his other strength, I would say, in general, besides the balancing. So if that sounds like your bag, this is a very well-known author. You're gonna want to read John Gwynne by 2040 for sure, if not a lot sooner. And finally, my final book on the list is another brilliant person I've had the pleasure of meeting, and in Worldcon, actually the last two Worldcons, Glasgow and Seattle. Her series is really taken off. It's really becoming popular. I see more and more people picking it up. Irish mythology, I think it gets a lot of treatment. It's treating an element that of mythology that perhaps isn't as well known. But I mean, it is just so, the characters. Oh my gosh, the characters, they are are really devious, but you won't be able to get enough of them. Like I said, one of my series now it's become, now I've read the 3 books in the trilogy, and she's doing a whole era 1, era 2. So I'm going to read everything she writes. It's Shauna Lawless, and this is The Land of the Living and Dead. Just an amazing person, warm, wonderful person, and a brilliant author. The last book, like that broke me, man. Like, Shauna Lawless has got some serious writing talent. You're gonna want to check her out. It's very accessible. It's character driven, and you're going to not be able to look away from some of these characters, and it's going to hurt you when things happen to them. So read Shauna Lawless, brilliant author, and that completes my 40 traditionally published science fiction and fantasy authors that you will want to read by the year 2040. Guys, I'm giving you 14 years, man. 14 years, folks, right? Like, we can do this. We can do this. So I'm sure you've read quite a few of them. Hopefully you found some new ones that you might want to throw on the TBR. But I think if you read these authors at some point over the next 14 years, I think you're going to feel pretty well read. The fantasy genre. Yeah, there's so much to read. There's so many books to read, the fantasy genre. But I think you got a bit of everything here. So, in any case, yeah, you got Jared. Hey, man, and I know I ain't getting any younger, so like 14 years. Yeah, we better get cracking. You probably read a lot of them anyway, so I think you're ahead of the game, right? But yeah, I want to thank everybody for stopping by for this spontaneous video that I like to do and just go live and just hang out. I hope that you found some books maybe that you can throw in your TBR, and that, hey, again, 2040, man, like, you got time. I'm trying to take the pressure off, man. I'm trying to make you feel a bit lighter. You know what? The TBR is not so bad. Just set a date way down there. Yeah, I got to read this book by 2040. Doesn't sound so daunting, does it? So, anyways, I'm PL Stewart. I'm going to do one of these for indie books. So watch out for that video. And I'll take a while to get this up because I'm going to try and tag as many of the authors as I can, just because they're so amazing and so they can see that they were mentioned. And yeah, I will come back with a similar video. I can't guarantee it's going to be by 2040 for the indies. It'll be, might give you less time, more time. We'll see. But I'll do a video just like this for the indies. And once again, thanks so much for hanging out. Everybody that came by in the chat. Calvin Kobo 5991, Jared the Fantasy Thinker, a Britain from some Okie Dude, Craig Haito. Thanks so much for coming by, all of you in the chat, and anybody who's going to watch this replay. All right, so I'm going to end it there, and take care. Bye now.